Live from the studios of 106.7 My Talker Radio, it's Curtis Wright on the beat.
8:05 across southeastern North Carolina. It's warm outside already, and there should be some showers on the way. So watch yourself out there traveling in and around our area. And, of course, keep it tuned to 106.7 FM My Talker Radio. And, of course, we're on the beat here. I'm very honored to have with us our two next guests. And by the way, for all of our listeners and watchers out there, this interview will be posted on our SoundCloud, on our virtual channel, on our YouTube channels, as well as our website, as well as all of our different Facebook pages across North Carolina. I'm very honored to have with us in studio Robert Griffin Jr. He's a volunteer and media coordinator who set up this interview this morning. Appreciate that. And Ray Campbell. He is the chair of Wilmington Friends of the NRA. And welcome, gentlemen. Glad to have you here.
Great to be here, Curtis. Thank you.
And they're great guests because they were here so early, too, and I love it. Let's talk about your work, and that's what we're here to talk about, your work here in southeastern North Carolina, how people can support that, because you support many other organizations by all the good works you do. So I've got my talking points, but it's kind of hard to figure out a place to start because I don't know if people really understand all that you do, and that's the point of today's interview, to, as I said, raise funds, raise money, and bring resources to bear on so many different causes and for so many other groups that need help and support here throughout our area, our region, to make us, as we are, a better community.
That's exactly right. We, the causes we support that you mentioned, the biggie is just youth shooting sports and education, firearm safety education, youth shooting programs. Well, like for instance, I got a call from North Brunswick High School in the last week or so. The air rifles that they bought with our grant to them last year, which they apply for, and anybody else in a related situation can apply for. But their air rifles came in just the other day. I heard from Buccaneer Gun Club that the shotgun shells that they had gotten through our program were delivered in the last few days. So,
you know, and there's such a, correct me if I'm wrong, Robert, but I think there's such a misconception for those, first of all, who don't believe anybody should have the right to have a firearm, that the Second Amendment is archaic and out of date and should be removed from our Constitution and from our rights, that today, more than any other time in our nation's history, because of your organization and some others, and your support of events and activities and programs, that people aren't just walking in and buying some gun and going home, or buying a firearm and going home or going hunting. That, in fact, starting from a young age, you are supporting events and activities and programs where firearm safety, I dare say today, is probably at the highest level and will continue to, as every year goes by, to be at the highest level in proportion to purchases than ever before. I mean, that's a fact.
Absolutely. And with the technology today, the internet and other forums, material is out there just readily available. And it's something that's embraced by our volunteers, our local supporters, and just numerous people throughout our footprint here. And it's amazing. I know growing up, I was involved with programs through the Boy Scouts and such, and it's just grown leaps and bounds since then, although that was quite a time ago, but again, that's what we're here for. And
one of the things, correct me if I'm wrong, Ray, but this is what I see, and I believe, again, this is fact, and that is that when the NRA, and that's why I support the NRA, and I think the attacks on it in the last couple years have been, in my mind, repugnant, is that when they see, you all see something that there might be a gray area, that there might be something better that can be done, you have been right there at the forefront to do that, whether it's gun locks, whether it is something else that is reasonable. You have been there as an advocate for that.
We try to be. I mean, it just, situations change, environments change, and we try to stay especially with the youth shooting side of it. Like, for instance, New Hanover County a few years ago got a Eddie Eagle uniform from us, which they're very expensive. It's like a pro ball team mascot type uniform. They have programs. I attended one at Brigade Boys Club where they teach firearm avoidance to real little kids, you know, to stop, don't touch it, go get an adult, that sort of thing. So, like I say, as things change, we try to come forth with something that'll help.
And you know, and family members and others, I have seen, because of that, being there when the NRA programs you support, being there from a young age, that as those young people grow into young adults and then into adults, and then they continue to pass it on. It's a cycle. It is like a circle of life, almost, in a sense, of continually passing those traditions, those habits on, and they are habits that need to be developed for safe purchase and use, right?
Absolutely. You know, we look at it, it's a family event. It's something that fathers, mothers, whomever can connect with their children and other family members, nieces and nephews. And you know, you touched upon the Eddie the Eagle program. That's geared from pre-K to third grade. What a way to make a good impact on a youth. So,
let's talk about, you know, I wish you would for us. I know I'm dragging you through a little bit. Probably for you don't get asked to list some of these, but there's a number of programs, as you've already mentioned, your involvement with the Boy Scouts, 4-H programs even. So it's many different types of organizations throughout the community.
Sure. And you know, really, Ray, correct me if I'm wrong, but all they need to do is apply for these grants and you know, create a little blurb why they feel they need it, and it's sent up the flagpole to you know, see what's what. But
the grant requests that we get during the course of a year are reviewed at the state fund meeting, which I attended back in November, I believe it was. And in Eastern North Carolina last year, we raised, or I should say, we approved grants totaling almost $200,000, and they went to Cape Fear Council of Scouts, particularly, that's on our side of the state, various JROTC units, 4-H, and actually a lot of people don't know this, and I didn't for the last few years, but law enforcement entities can in fact apply to us for grants I've seen them for spike strips and you know, that kind of thing. So
and that's what I meant by my comment. I think there's areas that people just wouldn't first come to their mind, that if you didn't do a grant or you got involved in an organization, or how you would do that, and they would just go. But it is about public safety as well. It extends beyond just firearms safety, but it's public safety.
Exactly right. Exactly right.
Now, the fundraising, and you got thousands of volunteers. There's thousands of volunteers. I know you said that in your talking points, but people need to know there are thousands of volunteers nationwide participate in all your different programs and your fundraising. How does someone, if they want to get involved more in the NRA and get involved in all you're doing, they can just the structure here in southeastern North Carolina, so to speak. How does meetings that you have, regular meetings that you have, talk to us about that.
I get.
And by the way, I should say, you're the chair of the Wilmington Friends of the NRA.
Exactly. I get, I shoot in various type matches and things like that, and I was at a match this weekend, and I noticed this young fellow had a big giant NRA sticker on his car. I said, "You are going to be at the NRA dinner, aren't you?" He said, "Yeah, and I want to do something to help. What can I do?" You know, and obviously everybody's not going to bump into me during the course of a week, but if they go to friendsofnra.org, there's actually a link on there that says something akin to be a volunteer.
And when we get back, we're going to take a break, make a little bit of money. We're going to come back, and I'm here with Robert Griffin Jr. He's a volunteer and media coordinator with the local or regional NRA. And Ray Campbell is the chair of the Wilmington Friends of the NRA. We have lots more to talk about. Stay with us.
Please stand by for a very important announcement.
Curtis Wright is on the beat.
You are out of control.
The new 106.7.
That's beautiful.
My Talker Radio.
We're back live here on the beat. Again, I'm Curtis Wright on the new 106.7 FM My Talker Radio. 8:20 in the morning, and joining us, we're honored to have in studio Robert Griffin Jr. He's a volunteer and media coordinator for the NRA, and Ray Campbell, chair of the Wilmington Friends of the NRA. And as we've seen, gentlemen, you know this more than I, when things have come up over the last several months, and the NRA has been a target, no pun intended, of those who may be your adversaries. You've seen across America, across the aisle, Americans rise up and say, no, hold on here. It's just, and the support that you have across America is amazing. And that support, of course, needs to be translated to do all the good into raising funds, and that's what you're doing on Saturday evening with the annual NRA dinner. And I thought, let's start with that and tell us, one, about the dinner and what they can expect, but how do folks support this effort here?
Go ahead.
Okay. Well, the fundraiser this year is at the Coastline Convention Center. Now, that's the old one near the Little Railroad Museum. The address is 501 Nutt Street down here in Wilmington. And it's 6 o'clock it all starts. Fun and family. That's what it's about.
And it is a family event.
Yes,
now,
sir.
Can folks buy tickets at the door? Or how do you want them to get tickets?
Well, best way to get tickets is they can go to friendsofnra.org.
Okay.
And they can buy them online. Just click a few times. Or my email is raycampbell48@gmail.com.
Okay, say that one more time.
raycampbell48@gmail.com.
Now, for our folks out there that may not have internet access, and believe it or not, there are those, is there a number that they can call to get some tickets or reservations?
Yeah, 910-520-4822. And we have the capability of taking the credit card information. And at this point, we would be reserving tickets. They would be in an envelope waiting for them at the door.
Okay, make it real easy.
Sure.
So it's at the Coastline Convention Center. Starts at 6 on Saturday. And walk us through a little bit what folks can expect to see there, because there's one thing we asked you this morning about a silent auction. That's part of it. So let's talk about what they can expect.
Well,
Our silent auction will contain things like jewelry, knives, guns. Well, I'm not sure there'll be a gun on the silent auction, but hunting, shooting supplies, and there'll be, like I say, some jewelry items there for the ladies. As a matter of fact, I got a call from a local vendor wanting to know, Hanover Jewelry, wanting to know could they donate something to help. Perry's Emporium has been a good supporter of ours over the years. They typically will have something there.
So we've donated something this morning because we've been holding it for you. And any business as well, is there still time for them if they do want to support you by donating some for the silent auction?
Absolutely.
Okay. And again, they can call you or go online to friendsofnra.org, but they can also call you. Give them that number again.
It's 910-520-4822.
So there's going to be the silent auction, but tell me more. Tell us more. What's going to be happening at the dinner?
We'll have a silent auction. We'll have a live auction, which will be typically NRA items and some guns, that sort of thing. We have ladies will be selling raffle tickets in various denominations that they can put in buckets for all sorts of firearms, sporting gear, again, not just guy stuff. There'll be some lady stuff there. We'll have some games. I don't know, what was the one that the kids liked so much last year?
The little penny one. There's some games geared towards children
and you
as well.
said this earlier, and that's something really important to stress. This is a family event.
Absolutely.
So folks, it's not one of those just the parents get to come out or that, but this is a family event, and you're encouraging that for folks to come out. Will there be any speakers at the dinner itself, or is this the dinner sort of a moving thing?
I'll be honest with you. We go long every year, and we go long every year without a speaker. We try to have some ceremonial stuff on the front end. We'll have the colors presented.
Yep.
We'll have a vocalist sing the Star Spangled Banner. This year it's going to be a young girl who is how old?
She's, 12, 13 years old?
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
So really your focus is all about just having fun, people getting together.
Absolutely.
Not, speeches and things like that, but that's great. And then there's, again, this is the best way if you want to also connect for the first time with the NRA, because all your information will be there, how they can volunteer, how they can get involved.
You'll get a kick out of this. IRS regulations won't let us sell memberships to the NRA there. Imagine that.
But you're an organization that's approved. You're a 501c3 charitable organization.
But we are separate from the NRA.
Oh, okay.
I mean, we're a 501c3, I guess, that they...
But you can't sell memberships there.
Yeah, but I couldn't sell
But you can give them information on where they can go to buy a membership, right?
Absolutely.
Okay. So if you're not a member, but as well as the Friends of the NRA and again, all the different organizations that you support and activities that you support, we do get questions a lot. I have gotten them over the years. Is folks will say, well, first of all, this is an organization I want to support, and secondly, I want to get involved in what they're supporting and the different activities. Well, this is the way to do it. This is an event to come to where you make that connection.
It's our only fundraiser during the course of a year. Last year in North Carolina, these events in eastern North Carolina from like Raleigh East raised grants of no, not the grants, but we raised about almost $400,000. Half of which comes back to North Carolina. We have to run the national youth shooting programs, Eddie Eagle, all the paperwork it takes to put on those kind of things. They're funded with the other parts of the money.
So donating to the NRA here, half or more comes back here. So it's really about eastern North Carolina.
It comes back to eastern North Carolina. To be honest, we all didn't come back to Wilmington, but because like I said,
but it's here in our state.
Exactly. At the state fund meeting, we see grants from all over everywhere.
I want to talk about also there's sponsorships for this fundraiser, is there not? People can be corporate sponsors, individual sponsors?
Typically, we have sponsorships for individuals, corporations that range anywhere from $250 to $2,500. I think the denominations are $250, $600, $1,250, $2,500. Each of those come with some pretty nice gifts, for the sponsor.
We started a couple of years back the corporate table, which allows 8 people to join in at a nice round table, and there's some gifts and
of course
for them as well.
You can have corporate sponsors, right?
Sure.
As well, and as individuals or groups of individuals, and this is we talk about this as a lot. This is where you can support those things that are important to you. Well, this is one of the ways you do it, by getting involved in a sponsorship or coming to the dinner. We're out of time for this segment. I was going to ask if you would stay for just a little bit. I wanted to talk a little bit more, just some other things the NRA is involved with that are important to us here in North Carolina. And again, I'm Curtis Wright. I'm here with Robert Griffin Jr., volunteer media coordinator for the NRA, and Ray Campbell, chair of Wilmington Friends of the NRA. Very important to know that they're representing us here in North Carolina. in many, many different ways supporting our communities. I'm Curtis Wright. We'll be right back.
It's the new 106.7 My Talker Radio. Curtis Wright on the beat.
We're back, 8:35, and again, my guests are Robert Griffin Jr., volunteer media coordinator for the NRA, and Ray Campbell, chair of the Wilmington Friends for the NRA. You can go friendsofnra.org, or you can give them a call, Robert,
at 910-520-4822.
And again, we'll give you some more information on the dinner and hope that you think about bringing the family on Saturday evening, 6 o'clock at the Coastline Convention Center. It is, as they say, all about fun, quite an experience in many different ways. This is a perfect way for you to connect with the NRA. I asked you to stay because we are a nation that is, in my mind, in chaos these days. And the chaos and the craziness that's going on is part of, well, you can, again, look at it two different ways. Being educated or not being educated, our society. How they're being educated or how they're not being educated. And, as I said to you off mic, we just don't remember as a nation that it was our founding fathers that made a legal argument for our right to leave the country we were part of. They made a legal argument, and we believed in it to the point that when talking was done, we then knew that we needed to pick up arms to enforce our rights or protect our rights. And one of the greatest things I think about our country is that there were so many states that would not, when it came time for our Constitutional Convention and approving our Constitution, and North Carolina was one of them, would not approve that Constitution without a Bill of Rights. And specifically, as part of that Bill of Rights, was the Second Amendment. Because, in fact, that's where we started. That's what brought it all about. And it just saddens me that in America, that so much about our Second Amendment rights and exercising our Second Amendment rights is done in such a negative way, when, in fact, it's what provided not only our country, made it possible, but it has been exactly what's preserved it. The best parts of our country.
Well, like I said off mic also, I said the 3 G's got this country to where we are now. God, guns, and guts of a lot of people. That's what it took to get us here.
And, down through history, we know that when a nation has disarmed itself or doesn't have those protections that our founding fathers it was common sense to them. This is what you must have. That then they can fall prey to any enemy, including an oppressive government. I think it's so important, the work that the NRA does in education. And a lot of times that's lost. The education part. We've talked today about gun safety.
Sure.
And the mindset and developing the habits of being safe and responsible for gun purchase and use in America. But we forget about what it's really all about. And, I'm thinking about all of those stories that we hear about, and there was just another couple this week about, let's just take older folks or infirmed people where they've had to protect themselves in their homes from someone. Where would they be today if they didn't have their rights?
In the front of the American Rifleman and the American Hunter, the two magazines that come out monthly from the National Rifle Association, there are a section in each of those, and basically it's called the Armed Citizen. And it'll go through maybe 10 or 12 examples of how a firearm in the home helped an elderly person from being victimized or a family from being victimized. I mean, some of them are sort of horrific, but that's where it is.
And it's part, it's perceived, or I should say it's presented as some sort of a negative, our Second Amendment rights and our preservation of such, in a negative way as a part of who we are. Well, guess what? It's something to be proud of who we are. You know, you were saying to me off mic, you know, how many people die of this? I mean, do we get rid of cars and mopeds, and do we get rid of
smart devices? Right?
Yeah, I mean, you plenty of things. This is ridiculous. But it's more important, is it not, Ray? Our Second Amendment rights can't be watered down to some silly conversation or debate like that. This is serious stuff. We wouldn't exist, and we wouldn't continue to exist as a nation if we don't preserve our Second Amendment rights, as we know it.
You know, I tell people that all the time, is that, you know, there are a few groups that, you know, support the Second Amendment, but the NRA is basically the daddy of all of them. Mm-hmm. And, you know, if not them, who?
Well, that's what I mean. If we didn't have this right, you know, not only the victims, but our nation would be a victim we would be a victim of others. And the education part of it, I think, I've been thinking, and the reason I wanted you to stay for a few extra minutes, I'm thinking, I'm throwing some things at you, but, you know, I'm thinking about all the debates we have had, that if the NRA wasn't there to come back with a response, and an education, reminding us of our history, reminding us of the importance, the seriousness of this. Just think, and that's what maybe, you know, what people need to think about. Will I come on Saturday evening? Will I get involved? Will I connect with it? If you can't come Saturday, will you connect and support the NRA and its work and the friends of the NRA? Is that what would it be like if the NRA wasn't there in America? And that's almost something, I know, look, you're shaking your head at me, but it's hard for you to even conceive. Well, that's what the point is. Just think about if the NRA wasn't there in America to be that point of reference or that point of pushback.
We would probably have been disarmed a long time ago.
And our nation, dare say, may have not even been here. It's that serious.
Absolutely.
It was that serious to our founding fathers, right, to make sure it was there.
It was.
Anyway, and I think, again, I said that and brought that up because I think the education part of it and the advocacy for our Second Amendment, which is in our Bill of Rights, is so important. And again, this is how folks can support it, by coming out. And you know, and sadly, I brought up to you in the off mic, we talk a lot about Common Core and what's happening in public schools. Well, it's pretty clear to me that in public schools for a long time, our Second Amendment rights has been presented as a negative and a bad and a damaging thing in America instead of for what it should be. What was the original intent and purpose?
You know, just listening, and as we talked off mic, I know back in my days in junior high and such, they had archery, they had shooting, and it was taught by the phys ed teachers, and key things: safety, education, and it in our conversation today, it's a common theme: safety, education, and that's when I first met Ray, and he talked a little bit more about the fundraiser and such. It really opened my eyes, and you know, again, we appreciate this time today to talk about what it's really all about, and if everybody would just take the time to listen, and truly listen, and be open-minded. And make their own decision. And
you know, both of you, and like folks in my entire life that I've come in contact with, those who are supporters of the NRA or their gun owners or weapons owners, you know, it's funny because they're such good people. You are such good people. And they're just, this isn't an issue to go out and, you know, grab a gun and wave it in the air and scream and yell. That's not the people I've ever come in contact with. But that's how it's presented. Mm-hmm. But what they are is people who love to hunt. There's people who understand just the basics of protection for their family or their property. I think about, and by the way, I had a unique opportunity to interview a number of the ranchers that are on the border who their only way to protect themselves and their families every day, not our federal government, but themselves. If they didn't have their Second Amendment, they wouldn't have been able to come to Washington and talk to them.
And that's a great point, Curtis. Have some friends and family that live down on the border, and a really key issue down there. If they didn't have that, they'd be lost because the law enforcement can't get to them in that time period.
And even remember what we've heard from some of the law enforcement professionals across America, you know, encouraging people to exercise their Second Amendment right, that our community needs that. because there's only so much of
Folks on both sides of the aisle in law
That's right.
enforcement, too. Yeah.
Gentlemen, thank you for being with us, and
you.
thank you for all you do. Robert Griffin Jr., again, volunteer and media coordinator for the NRA. Ray Campbell is the chair of the Wilmington Friends of the NRA. The dinner is this, and it's a fabulous event, a fun event on Saturday evening at the Coastline Convention Center, 6 o'clock p.m. If you'd like to reserve some tickets, give them a call at
520, that's 910, of course, 520-4822.
And you can also go to friendsofnra.org, and you can reserve tickets there. Thank you, gentlemen, for being here.
Thank you,
You might
Curtis.
as well mention you're going to be there, Curtis, and if they want to meet you, that'd be a good time.
I will be there, and I'm proud that you and honored that you asked us to be there. Folks, we'll be right back. There's lots more to talk about here on The Beat.